If you've ever wondered whether self love is selfish, today's episode will flip that belief on its head. Today's guest knows that finding your purpose isn't just a luxury, it's an essential. Yvonne Trost is a transformational leader, happiness coach who has walked through divorce, single parenting, and leaving a successful career to follow her true calling. Now, as a co-founder of Limitless You, she helps others break free from limiting beliefs and live authentically. And y'all, she lives it. Ancient wisdom with modern science and shows us how to move from autopilot to aligned and why self-love is the foundation of real success. Y'all, I'm so excited for this. Let's do it. Welcome, Yvonne. I'm so glad that you're here.
I'm glad to be here. I'm so excited. I can already feel lovely energy flowing through this conversation.
I feel like you and I have actually a really amazing connection. Just we share great energy. And so I'm so excited to talk with you and learn more about you. I know that you have walked through a lot of transitions, and I would love it if you could share a little bit about that experience. And I'd love to know how you learned to trust yourself enough to step into all of the unknowns that you did.
Absolutely. So there's a couple things that I want to make sure I caught on. We're going to talk about you're not alone. Like sometimes you listen to people and you're like, oh yeah, it's really easy for them. And you make all these assumptions, but it won't work for me because I have this and they don't have that or something like that. So I want to make sure that if you're listening, you don't feel alone and you don't feel like your situation is insurmountable because you're limitless and I'm going to try and help you see that you're limitless. And then I will talk about the process of developing self-trust, right? And surrender to get to that self-love. So most of the people that I have talked to, and I'll say, well, your subconscious mind, because I'm all about the subconscious and neuroscience, most of the programming, like what we run on by the time we're 35, is all conditioning from something that we learned in order to survive before we're 10 years old. And if you're like me, when somebody first said that to me, I was like, I had a great childhood. Might have been a little boring, but I had a great childhood. Well, I did, right? I grew up in a town of 2,300 in the middle of cornfields. My parents are still together. I had siblings, no big T trauma. But it doesn't matter because your subconscious mind interprets your reality in unique ways, whether you have big T trauma or little T trauma, right? So if you're listening, I just want you to know that to start, right? If I share some of my story and you have it better or you have it worse, actually doesn't matter. What matters is the meaning that your subconscious mind, when you were young, gave the events around you that were happening to you. So, I got grounded if I didn't get straight A's, or I was always compared to my best friend, Hannah. Why wasn't I good? Why wasn't I like her? Why wasn't this? My parents loved me. They did that out of their fear that they wanted more for me than they had growing up. And that's the way that they thought they would inspire me to make me safe, right? My child mind, which I've now realized many, many moons later, thought I wasn't enough. So we've talked about this before. Almost every single human being is running on some program that they're not enough. They're not strong enough. They're not smart enough. They're not pretty enough. They're not rich enough. Whatever it is that you think is your motivation, right? So we're talking about purpose. We're talking about trust and that alignment. Quite often we give up who we are and we give up our purpose because we think we have to do something else to be safe.
Yeah.
Or we think that that's not, something that's accessible to me. Like this is crazy. Listen to this, you guys. I never thought I would leave the country because I didn't know anybody else that did it growing up. I grew up in this tiny little town. I thought that private schools for really rich people that were on TV.
It's so funny
I
because
had no idea.
I grew up in a really, really small town too, just a state over from you. And I legitimately did not realize how much poverty I grew up around because that was just everyone's reality.
Yes.
And I thought that so many things were just in books or on movies.
Yes.
And I do constantly wonder what it's like to grow up in some of these rural small towns now where they actually do have access to like social media and can see that that what their experience isn't what other people's is necessarily.
Yes. And so if you're listening, maybe you grew up in a big city and you have no idea, like this girl that I went to college with, she had never seen a cow. I didn't know what is a silo. She had no clue. So I think what Danielle pointed out is so very important because we aren't even conscious of a lot of the things that we just automatically assume.
Hmm.
And most of the things that we automatically assume are those programs that I told you about, those ones that you were writing unconsciously in your subconscious mind, not because it's bad, but because humans are so sophisticated. If we had to take in everything that our five senses, let alone the senses beyond those five senses, can take in, we'd lose our minds, right? If you had to consciously think about brushing your teeth, even consciously driving from point A to point B that you've done a million times. So it's how human beings are designed. So it's not a problem, right? It's not bad. It's actually a gift. So think of yourself like a phone. Like most of us have smartphones now, right? And we get all these software upgrades. Yes?
Absolutely.
So think of yourself as the phone and your mind as the software. So in order to make the phones bigger, faster, operate better, right? They keep upgrading the software. We don't really upgrade the software of our subconscious mind. And it's 95% in charge of our adult life. What we think, what we say, what we do, consciously or unconsciously. So that's why, yet school, like you're great, you got a PhD, didn't touch your subconscious mind, right? And so I'm sharing this because I first want you to listen and think, like Danielle just did, what might be running my mind and my way of perceiving reality? So I just went to Dispenza. We were talking about that. So, and he shared this thing, and I'll give you an easier analogy because I went and fact checked it. But so you've listened to music before, right?
Yep.
Can you see the music in the air?
Not usually.
She's like, it depends on what planet. No, I'm kidding. So you can't, but it's there because it's energy, it's waves. So we're energy. We can see us because we have these particles that fall in the visible realm of visible light frequencies, right? But if you took all the frequencies, because everything is energy, they've proven that. That's science. That's not just woo woo, right? They've proven it. Everything is energy. If you like everybody's watching football or somebody's watching football, even if you're not and you're wishing they weren't. So think of a football field and think of a tiny blade of grass in the middle of that football field. That's all our five senses can and sense. Like that's what we can see. That's visible light. So reality is the full football field, making meaning, suffering, bliss, whatever it is, of one blade of grass, right? And that blade of grass and how you give meaning to your life and what happens to you is based upon these programs that we've talked about. So I always thought I wasn't enough. I had to do more. I had to achieve certain milestones, right? So I got straight A's. Mom said, go to business, even though I thought art would be kind of cool. You got to make money. You got to be safe. And then I was like, oh, well, everybody else is getting married. Why aren't you getting married? So then I'm like, oh, well, I better go get a husband, right? I better get the Facebook family. Even though I wasn't even on Facebook, I felt the pressure. And so I rushed into marriage. I rushed into doing what I thought I should do. Not because somebody was being mean to me, but because they were loving me in the only way that they knew how to love to try and keep me safe.
Yeah.
But it wasn't me. And what happens is when you're not you, right? All these kind of unhealthy coping mechanisms come in. Maybe you're a shopaholic. Maybe you drink too much. Maybe you binge watch Netflix. Maybe you go from relationship to relationship. Maybe you work too much. Maybe, just maybe, if you're listening, you're a caretaker or you're a giver and you're always giving, giving, giving because somebody told you that you're supposed to live by the golden rule. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. The problem is people aren't doing unto you as you need to be done unto.
Ooh, that's good.
So that's where self love and selfishness, that's we're going to talk about that now. I think I've changed the golden rule to the platinum rule. First, do unto yourself as you need to be done unto and want to be done unto, so that you can do unto others as they want to be done unto. Just because I like something doesn't mean Danielle likes it. Like what I would want somebody to do to me, she might like hate. So what kind of sense does that make? And then let me ask you this, whether you're a mom, a dad, in a relationship, working, let's just say all human beings. If you're a human being and you're listening, let me ask you, are you going to be the best human being that you can be when you're trying to please everybody else and feeling empty or drained and exhausted? Or are you going to be the best human being you can be for others when you fill your own cup full? You don't expect others to do it. You don't have resentment when they don't. You don't get tired and then you're not as creative or thoughtful or kind. Took me 25 years to start figuring this stuff out. So I went through a really crazy divorce and now I have a protective order 11 years later, right? This isn't, people see me, they're like, oh, she's got it easy, blah, 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 because I look like something and I play a certain role and I fit in a certain stereotype. I've been a single mama for 11 years now, right? I don't get a lot of support from my ex. I get the reverse.
Mm.
And if I can start tapping into who I am and making choices and decisions to lead a purposeful life that lights me up, I think you can too. And don't take my word for it. Call me. You can go to unlocklimitlessyou.com/call and tell me why not. And we'll have a discussion about it. I want you to start thinking, how might I? Right? So much of our energy goes into why not, why it won't work. Where you put your focus and your attention is what you attract. So for the longest time, I couldn't switch careers because I had to take care of my 2 kids. And maybe when they got out of college, then I would start living my life. Now I'm living my life and they're blossoming in ways that are much better than if I had stayed making a bunch of money being miserable and not focusing on them. So I want you to know that trust doesn't like happen after you drink some really good water or kombucha, even though I like both. It comes when you do exactly what Danielle and I talk about, which is test it, experiment. Because what will happen is your subconscious mind will fight you, not because it doesn't love you, but because it doesn't care if you're happy or not. Your subconscious mind is put into your brain, which you're not your body, you're not your mind, you're not your brain. You're like this light, but you have this brain that's a tool and it thinks it's the CEO and you're just supposed to follow it. But what I'm here to tell you is your brain's not the CEO. Like, Danielle, can you hold up your right hand? I won't make you pledge the allegiance. Just hold up your hand and start slapping yourself in the face. If you're
Oh,
listening,
no.
just
No,
start
for
slapping
real.
yourself in the face. Yeah, do
We're
it.
doing this? Okay.
Yeah. So you don't do that, right?
I try
No,
not to.
this hand is not you. You have it. I want you to know your mind is the same thing. But because people can't see it and we don't know how to use it, we let it slap us around all day long, all night long. And so I want you to think of that next time you're judging yourself. So there's 4 things. Anytime fear, unless you're in mortal danger, comes up, judgment of self or others, self-pity, or doubt. That is your brain slapping you in the face because it thinks it's going to help you stay alive. It fears that the thing that it's preventing you from doing is something worse will happen, right? So, for example, me staying in the career that wasn't aligned to my source, my mind said, you got to do it because if not, you won't make enough money and then you won't be able to like do what you need to do with your kids and then they'll be unhappy and then you won't be a good mom and you won't get an A as a mom. So it feared the thing that was worse. But in all actuality, I'm getting a A plus. Well, I don't know, A plus, what they give me. I'm getting a better grade now in my own perspective as a mom, as a human being than I was before. But my subconscious mind was trying to tell me, no, that's different because it wanted to keep me in the same spot because in that same spot, I was living. So this trust requires taking steps and then celebrating how you didn't die, celebrating how it's better, celebrating how you feel emotionally, physically, everything, even if it's a small win, so that you can get your subconscious mind to trust you as the leader of your life. You need to demote your mind. Like, I don't even know if COO is a big enough demotion. Like, put it as a manager for now, right? Take back the reins. And then you have to upgrade your mind, just like we upgrade our phones. Because if you didn't upgrade your phone, what would happen to the phone? Would it work very well? We don't either. That's why we have all these negative coping mechanisms because we're like, let's distract myself from the thing that I really want to do because I'm not even in charge of my own life. But once you stop distracting yourself and you start training your mind through either micro action or macro action, your subconscious mind is like, oh, okay, I get it. I trust. And you can start trusting yourself. I tell people, you don't get what you want, you get what you are.
Yeah.
So,
Tell me
so
more
if you
about that.
want unconditional love, you have to unconditionally love yourself. If you want unconditional support, you need to unconditionally support yourself. If you want somebody to trust you, who do you have to trust first?
Yourself.
Yeah.
So interesting. I was having a conversation with a colleague recently who came to me and I had so much empathy for her. She was, just in a space where she was not feeling valued. And I asked her gently, what have you been doing to express to your colleagues that you value them? And it kind of like you could feel her kind of like backpedal. And,
Yeah.
I said, if you want to be valued, start valuing others.
Yeah.
And, this idea that it is so hard for us to lead if we aren't willing to be the people that we're trying to lead others into.
Yes. And I would say too, like, think of it this way. However you're feeling actually has nothing to do with, like, let's use your colleague, has nothing to do with the other people that weren't valuing her. Nothing at all. Doesn't have to do with a job, doesn't have to do with what she's doing. It has to do with why she was giving it that meaning and why she was giving it that power. And again, you don't have to trust me. Come talk to me and we'll figure it out. It has to do with why she's giving it that meaning, and why she's giving it that meaning has to do with her conditioning, most likely before she was 10 years old. We're taught to give away. This was a big one for me. I was a big judger, and I was a big control freak, and I was a big planner, not in a good way like you do, more in a control way. And I had that similar thing. Like, I was always trying to prove myself or get the kudos. And even if I gave the kudos to other people, I wasn't getting them back. And that really bothered me. And then I realized, I always say, never chase, only attract. And the only way that you can attract is to first be what you want. So not only value them and express that, but first value yourself. And
Yes.
if you need it from somebody else, that tells me you probably don't believe in you as much as you think you do, right? When you need validation from another, that's a nice to have. That's not a must have that should trigger suffering. Not should. It doesn't have to trigger suffering. So, for example, I used to be very defensive and I would argue a lot. And I had this huge right monster, like on my right and my left shoulder. Like, I always had to be right. And what I realized was that when I try and be right, it's because I'm not confident enough in what I'm saying or thinking or doing that I need validation from that other person. So for your colleague, I would also challenge her. Number one, you did a great job. Like, I'm sitting underneath this gentleman, and I love what he says about empathy. He's like, empathy is hopping in quicksand with another person. If you empathize, you can't help them out. You can make it worse, right? If you got in there and you're like, yeah, that's happened to me before, and don't you hate when people do that? Whatever, then you're both sinking, right? So what you did is beautiful. And if you're listening, try this out at home and everywhere. Think about, how do I hear them, see them, and offer a branch to pull them out of the quicksand, which is exactly what you did. And then how do you help keep them out of the quicksand? And what I would say is, for your colleague, like, what does she value about herself?
Mm.
What does she think she values that others aren't valuing? And then take a good hard look at it. Because if she really values and believes what she's doing has high value, she doesn't need somebody else to confirm that.
It can be so hard to get honest with yourself about some of
Yes.
these things. I remember having an experience where I had a provost that really was a great leader, and he saw me, and I recognized, I was like, ooh, feeling validated by this provost feels so good. It's
Dopamine
like,
hit.
and then I was like, oh, how do I feel about the fact that I was just honest with myself, that I liked and appreciated validation? And like, what am I learning here about myself? And so there is this honesty that is required of us to be able to do a lot of the work that you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that sometimes what I see people struggle with is being honest, but not letting the honesty sink them into shame.
Absolutely. You don't like shame, self-pity, all of that judgment, like, it will never serve you unless you're in mortal danger and you actually need to run, fight, or play dead. So this is brutal honesty with yourself, but it is also beautiful.
Yes.
And the more you do it, the less brutal it is. So I like, you have your rise thing. I have my 3 R's.
Ooh, tell me.
So imagine these, and they're on an infinity loop, because this isn't hard. This gets easier. This is a new way of being. So the first is to realize. So that's that honesty with yourself that you're talking about. A lot of people out there, even if they can get to the honesty, the realize is only with their conscious mind.
Yes.
so they can get to the realize and the honesty. And it's sometimes hard for them to shift to the embodiment and lasting sustainable change and growth because they're only dealing with their conscious mind. And so at Limitless You, what we do is we help them realize not with just their conscious mind, but also with their subconscious mind, and also like unearth where it's been living in their body,
Yeah.
because your body becomes the mind over time and it stores those things and it creates these sensations that are known as feelings. And then those feelings automatically get interpreted into emotions, right? Whether it's a valid emotion, invalid emotion, it doesn't really matter. Like you don't think about it, it's unconscious. And so we have to realize what stories, what code, what software, what program is our subconscious mind running on? How does it show up? And then how do we get the early warning signs in our body so that before we take this action that we don't want to take, before we do this way of being, whether it's raising your voice or feeling sorry for yourself or getting stuck in depression or whatever it is, drinking too much, whatever it is. I used to do like a bottle of wine in a Netflix series, like anytime I got upset. So I kind of go to that one, but I don't do that anymore now. It's a kombucha in a wine glass, but it was just fun. Who said wine glasses have to be just for wine? Once you realize that, you can see it, really see it. That's where that deep clarity comes in. And then the next step, so that's realize. The next step is recode. When I ask somebody, what's your magic wish, or what do you want? What do you think you desire? Like most people can tell me what they don't want, and they have a more difficult time, and it takes them longer to tell me what they do want, like really want, because they've already carved out, like we talked at the beginning of the podcast, all these things that are not possible for them because it's not part of their reality or what they've seen in that little blade of grass in that big football field, right?
You know, it's so interesting. Yesterday in my creativity, storytelling, and identity course, we were doing a future self imagining activity. And as we were debriefing some of it, it became apparent that in a really empowering way, they were not that far from some of their utopian versions of themselves. On the other hand, they also hadn't given themselves that much permission to dream.
Yes.
And I was like, and one student was like, "Well, that's because I just don't know that if I really would write down what I want, it's not realistic." And I'm like, "Friend, this is an activity. Like, let's imagine, let's dream. Like, what if your possibilities are limitless?" And so it is hard to give yourself permission to desire. There's so many
One
ways
of the
we've been
things,
told no.
yes, and what I will challenge you and everybody is to not say or think anything you don't want to be true. So I don't want to say it's hard. You can say, in the past, I had this story that I was hard, but in the present, I need to try this out. And I know from my capabilities, every time I try something and I practice it over and over, it gets easier and I get better. I mean, come on, guys. I'm a happiness coach and a hypnotherapist from like a business and IT strategy consultant. Like, had I not taken out the limits, had I not dared to dream, dared to tiptoe my toe in different things. Like I told people, like, it's like I was on a marina, right? And I was on the dock and I just got there. I'd never been to a marina before, right? I'm thinking to myself, like, this is new. I'm like, oh, that boat looks cool. And it's going out into the ocean. I'm like, oh, and I'm starting to learn these things. Let me tell you, this wasn't from inspiration. This was from desperation. So, you've heard people change, and it's true, from inspiration or desperation. I'm hoping today, listening to Danielle and I, or reaching out to Danielle and I, you get inspired and you don't have to choose from desperation when you're getting a security system, because not because you're in a bad neighborhood in your home, but because of your ex-husband, right? Like it was desperation. That was so bad. And my girlfriend's like, you should come to yoga with me. I'm like, I hate yoga. There's no endorphins, right? I want the dopamine hit. I'm used to spinning and running and all the things. And I went and I said, oh my God. It's like an all you can yoga for, I think, $50, which is really cheap now, but or one drop in 19. I'm like, I'll just do the drop in. They're like, you only have to come 3 times a month. I'm like, I'm not gonna like it. I came out like, can I change? Because there was breath, there was movement, and then that turned into meditation, and that turned into manifesting, and that turned out I just tried little things. And I showed my mind, do I like this? What's possible? Do I like this? What's possible? And so I have a foot on the yacht and a foot on the dock. And I'm like, oh, I really want to go out to the ocean. It's getting ready to set sail, but my kids aren't out of college yet. And then I did something similar to what I help people do through a hypnotherapy session. I realized I'd been living based upon all these limiting beliefs and untruths. Some people go into a deep trance. Some people remember things that they didn't remember before. Like I've had somebody have a memory from the womb. I've had somebody from a memory from 2 or 3. Like it's wild. I didn't have any of those. I didn't go into trance. I didn't have any memories that I didn't already know. But what I did do is I realized with my subconscious mind that I've been living based upon somebody else's fears,
Mm.
that I hadn't been allowing myself, like you said, Danielle, to dream. I think somebody asked me in kindergarten, and that was it, what I wanted to be when I grew up. And then after that, it was like, here's all the things you should do. I'm sure that sounds familiar to a lot of people. So I love that you have that course. I love that people are practicing creativity again, because we are all powerful creators. We just forgot.
It's so exciting. All the
It is exciting. And it
Yeah,
just gets more and more exciting.
it does. Well, I wanted to go back because I think we got your first and your second R, and I was
Oh,
hoping
yes.
you could share the third.
So you recode, you really dream. And then and not just dream theoretically, or I mean, I love vision boards, but and you do something similar, engage all your senses.
Yes.
What will it feel like? What will you smell? Like what bodily sensations will you feel? Like, and then through meditation and hypnotherapy, we give everybody a tailored based upon their dreams, their limitless life. I call it the Limitless Life program. We shape it. I help them think about how might you? So similar, how might you? What might you do? Like there are no limits. You have a magic wand. Come on, like anything is possible. And we paint it and we shape it. And then we use hypnotherapy to go and see, like, well, what is blocking you from it? What untruths are you living by that you don't even know? Sometimes you know, and sometimes you don't. And then what do you want it to be? So that's the recode. That's painting the garden. Like we rip out all the roots, of the weeds down at the very, very base of those limiting beliefs. And then the recode is planting the seeds of the garden of the life that you want. Not that you think is a little bit better than what you have that's possible and realistic, like your class attendee, right? This doesn't have to be like what your current mind thinks is reality. Because remember, your reality is a blade of grass in this big football field. And there's a whole football field of realities that can exist if you allow yourself to be open to them. So that's the recode. And then there's third is the rewrite. So you realize with your conscious and your subconscious, you recode without limits, hence Limitless You, and then you rewrite. So that's where the steps come to train. You demote your subconscious mind, you make it a manager, and then you start retraining it, improving it through micro or macro action. That's the rewrite. And not only are you rewriting your present and your future, you end up rewriting your past.
Mm.
Because remember, what did I say? Is it the things that happen to you that make your reality, or the meaning you give them?
Yeah.
So what happens to most people, they think they're present, and you've heard of all this, be present, be now, be blah, 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 all the things until, and you actually can't be anything other than that. I'd like to see somebody try, like go back in time or in the future. But the problem is that they're basically recreating the past because their mind is organized in a way that says, okay, based upon my past, like ask anybody anything. And like, they'll give you an answer. I'm like, well, how do you come up with that? Well, this happened, or I learned this, or the favorite, I've been doing this for 20 years or whatever, right? It's all your mind organized based upon past experiences. But if you don't dare to dream without limits, all you're going to do is keep recreating the past. If you believe that because of your past, you're limited, which is what most people are doing, right? They're thinking that that past has power.
Mhm.
That one major event that they remember or didn't remember, right? Once they realize, no, it actually doesn't have power. My cute little subconscious mind did the best it could to survive dealing with that thing way back when, but I'm not that cute little mind anymore. It's a part of me, but now I'm much wiser. I have much more power. I'm not dependent upon that person, or I'm not limited in that way. You actually rewrite the past based upon the meaning you give it in the present.
You know what I love so much about all of this, besides just how incredibly empowering and limitless, full of possibilities it is that it's so agenic. It says there are spaces that we have control, and we're going to make decisions, and we're gonna create all these possibilities, and we have the power to.
And it's not, once that's what I'm saying, like you said that the other day, it's wicked fun. And it once you start, and that's why I tell people, like, they think they're not quite sure they believe me about this magic business. And then they believe that I have magic powers. And then they realize what I told them is that they have the magic powers. They just didn't know it. Right. And not magic like it's witchcraft. It's magic because it's what you thought was not possible actually is possible. And in a way that seemed just way too easy. once you get into the groove of things. Like, ask anybody in my tribe or go look at our reviews and unlocklimitlessyou.com. I meet with my tribe weekly, twice a week. You could join if you want. It's called Limitless Connections. You can go check it out on our website. But it is just so cool, like where people start and then how they grow and then how they keep growing and the things they didn't even imagine possible. Now they can't imagine are possible because that's just like so not who they are anymore. They're becoming the original design of themselves. They're taking off all the masks, all the shoulds, all the conditions, all the limits. And like I was talking to them about and guiding them through this meditation today, if you're somewhere where there's fall, right? How beautiful are the leaves? And it's a process of shedding what no longer serves you, right? And refreshing, renewing into more of you, into an evolved you, into the next level of you. And so as you're walking today, even if like nothing made sense to you today, well, number one, go back and listen because it's just going to make more and more sense the more you practice it. And then you come listen to this again. You're like, oh, I didn't catch that last time, but now I get it. Go practice, go test it. At a minimum, as you see the leaves change colors, I want you to think of those leaves as you. You're beautiful. The colors are coming from inside you. And as you release what no longer serves you, the colors get more vibrant and beautiful and powerful. So that's what I hope everybody can start really experiencing because that's what life's about. It's about we're here on Earth School to experience and to evolve and grow.
It's school. I love that. And I get so geeked out just imagine what it would feel like to have a community of Yvonne's doing this work together and holding space for one another. And I'm so grateful that I got to have this conversation with you today and that we are able to share it with all of you all listening so that you might feel inspired by the leaves and that you might recognize how limitless your possibilities are. And so until next time, be bold, be balanced, and be well, friends.